Well, hello, everybody. This is Michael Siggins from Channel Pro, and I want to thank you all for joining us today for our live webinar. We're very happy to have some special guests today, and our topic today is introducing Windows 10 Enterprise E3 for CSP subscriptions. And we're really very happy to have Matt Hester from Microsoft here today. Hey, Matt, say hello.
Hey, everybody. How are we doing?
And hey, Matt, before we get going, I just want to do just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. We've got a lot of info to cover today, and we want to make sure that everybody who wants to participate can do so effectively. All right, hopefully everybody now is all logged in, ready to go. If you've got questions for Matt, please feel free to look over on the left side of your browser, and you should see a chat area, and you can send your questions along there. But just to let you know, we should be able to answer all questions either at the event or perhaps afterwards. It's all based on kind of timing and sort of Matt's pacing as we go through the webinar today. And after the webinar concludes today, we will be following up with everyone with some links and some follow-up information regarding the webinar and accessing it again later if you need to. All right, so without further delay, Matt Hester, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you, Michael. My name is Matt Hester. I'm working with Microsoft. I'm a senior partner technology strategist. I've been with the company, it'll be 16 years on October 1st, so just right around the corner. And today I'm talking about kind of the evolution of where we're going with Windows and the different types of things that we're doing with Windows. And we had some announcements, and most of you are fairly aware of this, but also from a partner perspective, what's the value for this? So I'm very happy to be delivering this, and as being Tech Data partners, Tech Data is going to make this whole transition to this model even easier. Matter of fact, Tech Data was one of the few disties in the world that had Windows 10 Enterprise out and ready the day it launched from our stuff. So they're already moving forward with this exciting offer. So if you like what we talk about today, or if you have questions, let us know. I also have my buddy Will hanging out in the back end. If he sees any chat questions, he'll be able to handle those, and I'll try to take some at the end of the day. We're scheduled for an hour, but I'll try to leave some time for some Q&A at the end if you do have any questions. Otherwise, we'll get a few time back in your day-to-day. So let's just start with kind of, what is Windows 10 Enterprise, or WES, I call it for short, W-E-S, it's there. It's really just another way that we can access the Enterprise additional features of Windows for your customers on a subscription basis. So it aligns with 365, it aligns with EMS, and our other subscription-based services. Now here's what the kicker is. If you've sold Windows Pro to your actual customers today, guess what? All those features for Windows Enterprise are already in there. They're just laying dormant. And when you actually activate that subscription, all those features are going to come into play for us. So they're already there. They're just waiting for you to use. We're going to talk about what some of those terms are. Now, what's funny is whenever I do this presentation, I always chuckle at this first, the kind of the bold statement here. It's a better way for SMBs to get Enterprise. SMB and Enterprise never seems to go well together, but I'm here to tell you what. Don't think of Windows Enterprise as just an enterprise-only play. Think of it as being able to give enterprise features for those small and business customers at a fraction of costs that they might have had to incur in the past. So it really allows us to bring those enterprise-ready controls down to small businesses, much the same way that 365 gives that small business an exchange environment, and much the way that EMS gives that small business a wonderful security environment. Windows 10 just has that. So really at the end of the day, what is it? It's basically a seamless deployment of Windows 10 Pro. We actually have Azure Active Directory sign-in included. It's a simplified licensing model, and it's designed to be managed services delivered via CSP. This is where it's really kind of combined into it. Now, I don't know if you realize, especially being a partner, really a big push that we're having for pretty much almost all of our products and services, with the exception of some of our on-prem products. Everything's moving to that CSP model to help solve that. And why? Because partners like yourselves said, hey, we want to give one bill to our customer that includes everything, from the licensing to our managed services and to any other IP that may have involved in that. It's all about the profitability for our partners, and CSP is providing that for you and for your customers. So what is it? So Windows 10 Enterprise Edition, really it's when you offer it under CSP, you get current branch or current branch for business. Now, if you're not familiar with those terms, it's how we basically send the updates and how those systems are configured. When you do the Enterprise Edition, you don't get long-term service branch or LTSV or downgrade rights. You have to have at least one seat for 1 year. but you get up to 5 devices for that subscription, and it's $7 per user per month. That's the list price that we have. And you can roll back to Pro if your subscription lapses. It basically just removes that functionality, puts them back into a dormant state for you to use with it. So the great thing about this is that when you're working with this environment, you can bring them up, give it a test, and if they like it, you keep using it. If they don't find features useful, guess what? They can come back down to the lower editions. So when we look at this, why is this a big deal? Well, a couple of reasons. First off, there's an opportunity here. When we look at E3 and CSP model in this Enterprise Edition, you have a simplified sales motion, right? That's a big part of what CSP does. It lets you have that one bill. It's an easy add-on to existing 365 or EMS. And if you have those 365 and EMS customers, this is the exact target for these type environments. Seamless cloud deployment. This is a one-click configuration via mobile device management or group policy. There's no labor-intensive deployments. Why? Because the features are already there. It's just a matter of activating them. There's nothing going across the wire if they're on that Pro environment. And it's a very nice subscription model. I mean, $7 a month, people can pay for this. This is why we have that in areas. So that's the published cost that we have. Customer profiles. When you look at this, who do you look for in that area? Well, I always like to think if they're already on 365, and especially if you've had that EMS conversation with them, they're a great candidate for Windows Enterprise. But some other areas that you might want to look into is folks around security. I mean, one of the big advantages to E3 Enterprise is going to be those security environments. And when we look at that environment, you can see a lot of improvements in our security that's there. So when we think about access, process, or security, high sensitive data, you know, your legal providers, your financial, if they're sensitive customer data, regulated industries, or in-house software development, these are candidates for that Windows Enterprise environment. It all depends on what they're going to be at. And when we look at this from the opportunity standpoint, just in the SMB space, we have about 30% of the total addressable market. This is really where it's going to have that. So this is a big opportunity for you. And from that standpoint, it really allows us to work through those opportunities to move them forward with Windows Enterprise. Remember, this is about getting them up and current in a secure platform and moving them. It's not about being able to give them functionality and roll them back to prior operating systems. This is about improving the environments that they have today. I think that's a big reason why we don't have downgrade rights in this product. It's designed to keep them moving forward and keep them secure and moving inside of it. And if they choose they don't want those features, they're still going to have a great OS and Windows 10 underneath the covers for them to work with it. When you see this, at the end of the day, the biggest piece from my perspective is when you think about Office 365 and EMS as being an easy add-on, this is the most secure edition of Windows that we've ever produced here at Microsoft. And really, it's designed to help you save that opportunity. It's helped to really help tell that story. Windows 10 Enterprise is designed to help you save time and money, protect your business, protect your sensitive data. And we really put this into 3 kind of categories from a standpoint. First off, increased security. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but really help protect that. Partner managed IT. When you go to Windows Enterprise subscription, this is directly for a partner model to help manage the IT for your customers, which most of you do today. This just gives you another opportunity for some more revenue. You basically own your customized device strategy. You manage the business for that. You allow your IT managed partners to do this. And with a small price, when a simplified licensing per user per month pricing is pay-as-you-go subscription model, makes it real easy to kind of position that. So when you think about when you first started selling 365 or Office 365, and just even if you just sold Exchange Online, how simple was that to sell to your users or to your customers, right? You went to your customer, hey, look, it's going to be this much per user per month, and you can grow or shrink that as you grow or shrink your business. This is how much it's going to be versus what you're doing today with an on-prem environment. Windows is following that same kind of mantra. It's aligning to that. This is why this is an important release of the Windows operating system that we have today. So when you think about the most secure edition of Windows, what do we have here? Really, security should be top of mind for you as a partner, as a business model, and it should be top of mind for your customers. When you think about everything that's happening in the world today, security becomes paramount to help protecting this. I think we do a great job, or we're starting to do a better job, I should say, with our identity. I think when you look at things like Azure Active Directory, even AD in premise, that's where it all starts. So doing other things in addition to AD like multi-factor authentication or using Windows Hello with facial recognition, if you have devices that can do that, is a great way to start that conversation with your customers. So if your customers are coming to you and saying, hey, we want multi-factor authentication, Windows Enterprise Edition becomes another conversation you can have with them. From the standpoint around Credential Guard, not only protect the user IDs with Azure Active Directory, protect the actual credentials themselves underneath that. We can do things like Device Guard, protecting those devices from malware and untrusted apps. App Locker management. If you're not familiar with App Locker, we've launched this. I believe we came out with initially, the initial version was in Windows 7, but allows us to control what apps are allowed there. But once again, if you're looking at customers and helping protect that, EMS, Enterprise Mobility Suite, becomes a great option for that. And then we get a better managed user experience where we can lock down devices. So if you have customers that have kiosks or centralized computers, we can do a lot of great work inside of that. Now that would be one feature I'd look at from more of a standpoint. That is definitely a larger organization where they have kiosk computers in their lobbies or whatnot, but you might have customers that want that. Small libraries and those types of folks might use that type of a kiosk environment. But really when you think about this, Credential Guard is a huge opportunity here to help protect that secured environment. Device Guard really helps protect that hardware. And App Locker protects the software that's running on it. And you only give the software that they want to run. So really this is the best edition of Windows we've had from a security standpoint that really needs the ability to work with that. Managed by your partner. This is you guys, right? So Windows 10 Enterprise, if you don't have an IT staff or your customers don't have it, they don't want it, guess what? This is all about you, about being able to do comprehensive management and support, being able to give them this. And it's all back into that Credential Guard, Device Guard, App Locker, being able to manage those devices. It lets you be scalable. The good thing about this, Enterprise may not be for everybody inside of an organization. So it lets you scale it up or scale it down inside the org. The best thing about this, you might have somebody say, hey, I really need this on mine. It's a very easy thing to do. The best thing about being a partner, you're the single point of contact. You're the one that actually handles this whole solution. And at the end of the day, it lets you have a customized device strategy. I think the biggest thing that IT has lost over the years or lost control of, and it's not a bad thing, is when we went down that whole realm of bring your own device, right? If you ever were old school IT, and that's how I cut my teeth back in the NT351. You had your big desktop, the big clunky thing, and that was great, right? Because it was wired into the wall, and we could control it at IT. We could throw group policies at it. We could do all kinds of things to protect those devices and make sure they're managed and responsible and whatever we needed to do. Well, when you think about Windows and where we have evolved the ecosystem to, everybody's mobile. More importantly, some people may not like a Dell, or they might like a Lenovo over a Dell, or might like an HP over that, or they build their own system, or they bring a device like an iPad or an Android device into the market. Now, with the exception of iPad and Android, which we'll cover with EMS, how do we protect those Windows devices, and do we really care? The great thing about Windows, at the end of the day, we don't care what that device is. We care about the user that's on the device. We care about protecting that device, but it doesn't matter whether that's a Dell or an HP or a Lenovo or any other laptop. If it's running Windows, we can allow that strategy to really develop to what's needs of that business, because that business is going to pick hardware based on business needs. The great thing about Windows, it's going to be able to morph and transition to those devices very nicely so that we can actually run those in a secure fashion. We can manage them. It really doesn't become it doesn't matter who they are. You think about a device today and you think about cloud services today. If you have Office 365, it doesn't matter where you log in from, as long as you have your credentials and your user ID and password, and possible in your multi-factor authentication, you can come in from any device. So having the subscription-based services really helps that customized device strategy, and being able to go up to 5 per license really gives a lot of flexibility to people that might have multiple devices inside the organization as they move through this. Small business price. When you talk about $7 per user, the subscription based here, it really has that benefit of being inexpensive and giving those enterprise features. If you think about trying to buy, and we'll have some examples later in the slides, if you think about trying to buy those things at those levels, it's really kind of almost becomes cost prohibitive. But when you can do these types of things at a subscription base, it really makes it easy to have that licensing. It's per user licensing. Licensing reassignment allows you to onboard employees and easily reassign licenses if one employee leaves. Very easy to do this. Seamless upgrades, as we've talked about. And it's all cloud-based. When we activate and maintain the device licenses, anywhere there's a log on internet connectivity is available, it really makes it very easy and cost-effective to give them those enterprise features where there's little work from you from a standpoint other than just provisioning those licenses, and Tech Data is going to help you get all that stuff in line and ready to go for it to work with it. So really, when we think about the environment and what we have inside of here, $7 per user is pretty inexpensive to give them Windows. And when you think about the whole stack of what we have today and where we are now and where we're going, we had Dynamics CRM Online, and I think it's actually going to be, I don't know if they announced it in Ignite, but we know Dynamics is going through kind of a morphing process. We have Office 365, EMS, and there was no operating system component. So part of the reason why we did this at Microsoft was so that you as partners could position this for your customers to have the whole entire solution, the whole entire thing from the operating system all the way to the different productivity apps and different applications that you're going to need to help manage that customer all in one fell swoop. It makes it easy for you to sell and provision. It makes it easy to just upsell that suite because maybe they don't want 365 yet, or maybe they don't want Dynamics yet. But guess what? It gives us that ability to do that type of information very, very easily and align that kind of licensing model with that. Once again, when you think about where does this come in from your whole solution. So think about this. We're helping you provision all that software from a subscription standpoint, from Windows to 365 to Dynamics and EMS, and we've mentioned that several times because it's important to understand that's just a piece of the puzzle. That stuff does not deploy itself. It doesn't manage itself. It doesn't provision itself. This is why this is important that you as partners get involved with this as well. Why? Because this is where you get to have all your little magic come in and your stuff that makes you unique as a partner. First off, if you sell devices, you can do those types of things and have those packages. Allows you to bring the devices that you want to work with. Or if your customer's asking, hey, I want to get Windows 10. How many of you, I answer this for my relatives every week. Hey, Matt, I want Windows 10. What device should I buy? It lets you have that conversation. But more importantly, and more to the profitability part of this, you get to add two things. And these two things are what make you unique as a partner. And when we look at the SMB space, there is more business out there than anybody can handle. But why do they pick one partner over another? First off, what managed services do you add on top of that? This is you to get to sell what services. Hey, look, I'm not just buying the Microsoft stack, which we have agreed on is the best solution for your business, but you're buying us. You're buying what we can do for you. Maybe you have support plans. Maybe you have incident response. Maybe you help deployment. Maybe you help grow their businesses. Whatever your managed solutions are, your managed services. And if you don't have any managed services today, you need to start thinking about them. How do you help your customers today? And then the last one is IP services. Now, just don't think IP services are your app. So a lot of partners that I talk to when I introduce the concept of IP services, they actually work with those different things and they think, well, I have to write an app to get an IP service. That's not necessarily the case. An IP service is basically the ability to work with the different environments that you can identify as unique services that are there and working with the environment. So when you look at IP services, it's what else do you add on top of that? It might be your unique approach to how you deploy EMS to a customer and how you provision the apps that are there. It might actually be the other IP services of how you work with those different things. So at the end of the day, your IP services are the unique things that you do. It might be how you set up group policies if they have an on-prem AD environment. It might be how you provision and deploy it, something that's unique to you as an organization. This is where your profitability is. It's in these two areas that we have around partner managed services and IP services. That's where you're going to have the best margin, the best revenue that you can generate for your customers that are there. When you think about this, how do you grow your business with just a software and an operating system? And really it's been the question that we've had for years of how do you do this. So you're like, Matt, that's great. You just talked about all these managed services. You just talked about this IP. What does it all mean to me and my organization? And really it's what do you do today? You think about think at the bottom of this thing, full track solution, customer needs management, OS upgrade. you can add that. Cross-sell the full stack through CSP. It's going to give you that full stack. Maybe managed services provider. Maybe they need enhanced security or Windows as a service. Identity, security, device rollout. Let me just get on a soapbox for a second, especially talk about the security and identity. If you've sold Office 365 to your customers today, how many of you turn on multi-factor authentication for them? Now, I don't expect anybody to raise your hands, and I couldn't see them if you would, but when I do this live and I talk to partners like yourselves, I get one or two people that turn it on. And I ask them this question. And for those of you who've turned it on, you already know the answer. Was it hard? No. It was a checkbox. That's the stuff that's built in to just having 365. Real easy to do to turn on multi-factor authentication, which means now they have to use the user ID and password, and they're going to get a phone call or a text message and have to authenticate to verify their identity. Real easy, but you've just added a huge layer of security to help protect those user IDs and passwords. If you haven't done that type of stuff, your customer doesn't know it's going to be easy to do, but something you can include. More importantly, if they really like multi-factor authentication, you definitely want to get into the ability to think about taking that to EMS. So it becomes that additional Windows as a service. Now I'm doing device management as a service for that customer. And then project services. I think really at the end of the day, there's a lot of work you can do from project management services for your customers today. It starts with just running, doing an evaluation. Are they ready for Windows 10? Do they have the hardware that's ready for Windows 10? Hopefully, most everybody on this call is familiar with Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, or MAP for short. If you haven't used the MAP toolkit, it is one of my favorite tools in all of Microsoft for a couple reasons. One, it's a great tool. It will help you discover what's going on inside of your customers' environments, not only from a Windows operating system environment, but also Office 365, virtualization, are they ready to move to the cloud? It does a lot of great quick assessments for your customers. And for the second reason I love this tool, it's free. All you have to do is download it. But have you ever thought about doing an assessment for your customer? How many of you do this today? Hey, look, we'll come in, and it's almost like going to a car dealer, right? I go to my car dealer to get something looked at and say, hey, look, it's going to cost us $100 to look at it. But if we find something, we'll just apply that $100 to what we do if you choose us to do the work. Great. How many of you do that today? How many of you look at that as a simple project service? We'll come in and just do a quick assessment. If you choose us as your IT, we'll just add that as a credit to your bill. It's a great way you can learn more and develop that relationship with your customers. At the same time, you're building that knowledge so that when it is time for them to go and deploy, you know who you need to upgrade, who you can't upgrade, who you need to buy hardware for, and what's there. Then what comes on top of that? Assessment's one area. Deployment's another area. So we have these other areas that allow us to work through those different assessments and different refresh opportunities for your business. So there's lots of project services. And now that we can include the whole stack from the OS and everything there, there's a lot of capability for you inside of CSP to add all this other stuff that makes you a partner, that makes your customer choose you over another partner. So maximizing profitability. If you've taken any of the business profitability stuff that we've done online, you've probably seen slides like this all over the place. But it kind of illustrates those different services you saw on the different slide. Now, this is actual real data that you're seeing here in real environment. This is actually done by a survey. It's a global bring your own device market analysis that they did up until 2020. What they're basically showing you is based on partners and they spoke to the average revenue scale. So this is real dollars, real margins, and real things from partners like yourself selling these solutions across that stack. And it starts with devices and accessories. We live in a consumption economy nowadays, and that margin for that software licenses. I mean, one of the nice things about this, you think about 10, 15 years ago, the margins on software licenses, you could practically have a business just on the margins alone. But cloud, one thing, not only has it changed the technology, how our customers use technology, but it really has shrunk down those margins. So we've seen most of our successful partners are selling more than one cloud technology, but more importantly, they're doing one of the other three things inside this chart. They're either doing project services for assessment and deployment, they're doing some kind of make sure those customers are managed, or they have some kind of package IP, maybe pre-configured or easy buttons for those customers. And that's where Tech Data especially can help you with a lot of that stuff about making those easy buttons where it's real easy for you to buy for your customers and help them move forward, but then you can take that another step forward. It's once again those things that make you unique as a partner. So when we think about maximizing profitability, you know, 65% in packaged IP, 45% in managed services, this is where you can make your money. And this is where we find partners in today's day and age making a lot of it. And quite frankly, when I look at our partner base, I'd be naive to say that all of my partners are just 100% Microsoft partners. Now, first off, if you're on this call, thank you for being a Microsoft partner and being, you know, helping us. But hopefully you're doing other things. The great thing about this is that your managed services apply to all technologies. Sorry about that. So when we think about maximizing the profitability, you really have the ability to look through that full stack. And this is just for Windows 10, and a lot of it applies to that. The nice thing about this, and even when you think about the revenue today, is when you have managed services or packaged IP, this is recurring monthly revenue. And especially when we look at cloud technologies, this is recurring cloud revenue as well. The nice thing about this, and even when you start working with cloud solutions, it just kind of, once you start selling cloud to a customer, we have tons of studies, third-party studies, and our competitors have the same third-party studies, that when somebody starts dipping their toes in the cloud and realize that everything's working great, they then start throwing their whole bodies into the cloud as well. They're there for us. SMB target segments. When we think about the different environments of where these devices go, it all depends on the size of the organization. There is no magic number for this. You know, I never like to look at from a you know, ultra small to mid-size to any size. But really, when you get to the mid-size and any size, I think that's when they're going to start looking at the Windows Pro and Enterprise features more so than some of the organizations. It's not to say that some of the smaller organizations aren't going to need Device Guard or some of the other enhanced security principles inside of Windows 10. Enterprise, but they may not. So, but it's a conversation starter. It's where we can have those conversations, where they have these environments. And I even think the ultra small employees are more ripe for enterprise, more so than sometimes some of the bigger complex folks that might have their IT staff on board. But it really lets you take a look at those targets in an interesting way to kind of identify, hey, who do we go for? Who are we looking for inside of our customer segments today that's there? So when you think about Windows 10 of what do you sell today, you know, Windows Pro and Enterprise, the different environments that we have, and there's a couple slides in the appendix that we'll, if we have time, we'll cover at the end. But really, via open per device, you know, basic domain join, Azure Active Directory domain, they get all that kind of basic Windows 10 Pro. Enterprise just adds on top of that, but it's now a per user environment. Or if you want to really go to a complex way of doing this, and if you really need downgrade rights, the subscription model may not be there. I know I saw a couple comments and there are no downgrade rights. If you want to have Windows Enterprise with downgrade rights, you're going to have to get it with software assurance via open per device. So it changes from a per user model to a per device model. There's ways to do it, but other areas that you have. I see a lot of people really controlling, if they want to control the deployment, they go to that longer term, that open device, but it's once again going to drive the costs up for those customers initially. So all depends on what model you want to fit into. We do offer those different abilities to work with that inside of here. So example sales scenario, just a couple quick snapshots you can always take a look at after this. You know, find the right customers, pitch the value, and then standardize them. I think one of the biggest things that we can do for our customers and for your customers is get them standardized on a certain operating system. Why? It makes it easier to manage. Now, the fact of the matter is sometimes you can't. They might have an app that doesn't work or won't play nice on Windows 10. Well, that's not a candidate for upgrade then. But whenever I hear that, and I've run into this relatively recently, and it's kind of scary, folks. I have an app that won't run unless I have DOS. Now I get it, right? The app might be important to the customer, and it might need DOS, and it probably does need DOS, and the company made the app's probably never going to upgrade it to a Windows. I get it. But this is where you probably want to rethink, is that the best app? Is that the most secure app? Is it a proper app for my business? Is there a better way to solve that problem? I'm not saying cloud solutions will be the way to solve that problem, but what I am saying is that it gives you that ability to have that conversation. Hey, I know you have that DOS app that's making you money here, but let's talk about a better way, a better app, a more secure app to help change that conversation. Because if you can standardize, it's going to ease out your workloads that are there. Once you get them standardized on a device platform, and really it's there, having a cross-sell and upsell environment is going to even be better. and be able to sell 365 or EMS or other cloud services like Azure, like Dynamics, really opens up that environment. And then you can attach all your other projects. And really, step 5 should be a part of your conversation during the standardization phase. This is what makes you a partner. It's what they brought you in to do and work with it. And it helps you strengthen that relationship. I think one great thing about cloud technologies today, it has made not only us at Microsoft, but also partners like yourselves, get to know your customers better. Know what they're doing, why they're doing those things. I mean, how many times have you had a kid knock on the door and say, hey, can I get $20? Do you just give them the $20? No. What do you need it for? Well, nowadays, I think $20 is even naive. I mean, my kids come in and ask for a lot more. I'm like, no, you can't have that money until you tell me what you're going to do it for. Oh, I'm going to go to the library. Oh, why do you need money for the library? So we have those abilities to work with that. It helps build those relationships that are there. So some sample deals that we have. Once again, I'll let you kind of take a look at this after the fact, because you can download these slides to kind of really dig into this. But it gives you an idea that's there. Now, it all depends on the incentives, and I know tech data will definitely help you with some of those areas. But when you look at the profits and you look at some of the incentives that are out there, you definitely want to evaluate what's right for you from a CSP perspective. Now, while I can't fully quote what the incentives will be, you can get a general idea what's there. But when I see 35% or I see 39% revenue based on everything else that's there, that's a pretty good margin to have on a deal nowadays, especially in the cloud economy that we have. And oh, by the way, side note, if you haven't read a book called Consumption Economics, I highly recommend you go read this book called Consumption Economics. It talks about the cloud world that we're all living in today and what we're actually doing for that environment. So when you look at these types of deals and you look at just the unit prices across the different areas that we have, you can get a general idea of what those services and profits are. And these are just all based on just samples and studies that we have inside the world today. But Windows Enterprise is a subscription. I think it's going to be a model that more and more SMBs are going to look at, especially this. And remember our slide said it started at like 250 or a little over 100. This is a 50-person deal with Windows Enterprise. It talks about those margins and licenses that we have, so we can have that kind of due diligence today. So lastly, and to finish up, and we got kind of a little early, so I have some time for some questions to go through them here, is get started today. Hopefully you're selling Windows Pro with your devices today, and there's a whole upgrade chart of what's the best way to get a hold of it. Become or find a device reseller, or better yet, use your friends at Tech Data to help sell those devices. Grow. When you think about if you sold them Windows Pro and you're moving them forward with Windows 10 Pro, look at Enterprise. But if you haven't sold them Windows Pro without Office 365, Office 365 becomes an opportunity for them. If you can't sell them on the subscription, or maybe you want downgrade rights, maybe that's where you sell them software SA with Open and you buy it a different way that's there. Or optimize. Once you get them moving into the cloud, and hopefully partners that have sold 365 that are on this will agree, is that once you start selling them cloud solutions, you then have the ability to sell them more cloud solutions. Things like Azure, things like CRM, everything else that we have the ability to work with that environment. Become a full stack managed service provider. If you're not a managed service provider today, I really highly recommend you start looking at becoming a managed service provider today. If you're not selling cloud technology today, I don't mean to scare you, but I'll guarantee you if you're not selling cloud today, your customers are watching TV and they're seeing cloud commercials, or they're being talked to by your competitors. This is not just us at Microsoft saying this is what we want to sell, and it's, whether it was Amazon or Google or whatnot, they're getting the cloud message. Would you rather not change and adopt the cloud revenue and adopt managed services, or let those customers go away? And I don't mean to scare you, but that's just what I see happening to partners who don't want to develop a managed services practice, or their managed service practice used to be, and these were great practices back in the day, break fix. They'd come in and help plug in the cable if it came out of the back end of the on-prem server or whatnot. Well, a lot of those practices are going away, but they're changing to how we do break fix, how we do deployment. I remember when the cloud first came out and the technologies behind it, we had a lot of IT pros, the folks that I work with quite a bit, would say, hey, the cloud's going to take my job. But at the end of the day, it didn't. Now, if their job was to rack and stack hardware and plug things in, yeah, they had to change what they were going to do. But Active Directory is still Active Directory. It doesn't deploy itself. 365 doesn't deploy itself. Windows doesn't deploy itself, doesn't assess, doesn't evaluate, doesn't do those different types of things. So if not, we found even more work for the IT pro shop and for partners to actually gain with that. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities here for that and a lot of different things that we can do. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to help build that practice, look at this practice, and we think when you have the whole stack from Windows Enterprise to the software on top of the device, you have a great ability to sell and transact to your customers. And CSP lets you lump it all up into one bill, including all of your managed services as well. So with that, I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm going to take a look at some of the questions. I'm going to get a quick sip of water and go with it. But I'm going to give you some time back today. It's a fairly quick message. There's been a lot of stuff on Windows Enterprise, and I think there's even going to be some good sessions. If you're not at Ignite now, or if you want to see some more, go check out some of the things that are Ignite. I know there's some Windows Enterprise sessions at Ignite this year to talk specifically about the product if you need more technical detail here. But I'm going to pause for just a second. I'm going to look at some of the questions that we have in the queue. I'm going to get a quick drink of water, and I'll be right back. All right, so looking at some of the questions, I asked if to record. There will be copies of the presentation where some of the ones that I saw today that are there. I had somebody mention about no downgrade rights. That might be one of those things, especially in the subscription model. But generally when you're going to the subscription model, they're moving forward with Windows 10. If you need those downgrade rights, as I mentioned, that's where you might want to sell them software assurance and buy the software via open and not CSP. That are there, but it's something you definitely want to look at that are there. So, and that kind of answers the second question of, hey, we still need a SKU with downgrade rights. That's where it is under software assurance and open. So hopefully that answers your question. Are these SKUs available through distribution? As I mentioned, especially with Tech Data, the answer is absolutely yes. They were there day one. So the minute the product became available, Tech Data was one of the few disties in the world that actually had it. So definitely reach out to your Tech Data reps and get that filled out. I think 5 devices per user is great. It's kind of like that, the Office 365 model. I think that's a huge selling point that, you don't just get it for one device. You get it for that user for 5 different devices. So it really enables a lot of great mobility scenarios there we do. Where do we get the map toolkit? If you Google it using Bing, all right, I expect laughter on that one. If you go to your favorite search engine of the day, and I would recommend Bing, if you just type in Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, it should be the top result. I've done this across a different search engine, and it's always the top one. And the nice thing about MAP is that I've known this tool, probably close to 10 to 12 years, and it keeps getting updated. They add things into it. It's an agentless tool. It's basically designed. It is a tool made right in my heart for SMB businesses to go out and do discovery, and it does more than just Windows operating systems. It does 365, database. Am I ready to move my virtual machines to the cloud? It does a lot of free kind of great things. Do a quick search. You'll definitely be able to find it very easily. I got a question. Average rev monthly or annual? I'm not quite sure what that was. It might have been annual on the one example that I saw, if that's the impertinence too. Does CSP include Azure Stack on-prem solution? If so, is Windows 10 Enterprise for CSP available for deployment on the Azure Stack? So CSP is a licensing model, so I can't really say it includes that. Azure Stack is, and I don't think it does include the on-prem stuff. Azure Stack is basically you're deploying Azure on-prem for your customer. In the SMB space, I don't think I'll ever see an Azure Stack and SMB customer. I think it's there's a lot of licensing involved. The Azure Stack in and of itself, plus the Windows Server licenses on top of that. But they're not in CSP. You're going to buy those via open that are there. And Windows 10, so the question is, it doesn't really, you're talking about 2 different kind of solutions, a subscription-based software versus an on-prem environment. Why not offer the same solution via open and open value with SA? I'm not sure why. My guess is they pointed us to specifically for the subscription model for CSP because it aligns to that selling motion a lot better. That decision was made way above my pay grade. Don't have a good answer for you on that one. I think they just wanted it aligned to that CSP model. Once again, that monthly bill, that one bill we send to our customers. I think it was more for alignment than anything else. The recording and the PDF will be available after that call. If you're really wanting to move to a monthly subscription model, that offering needs to have an incentive. There are incentives for it. I think at the end of the day, The advice that I'm giving to a lot of partners, and it seems to be more and more, is if you're banking on the incentives and the margins from the software licenses across the board, whether it's us or Amazon or Google, those margins are non-existent or minimal anymore. The incentives that we have are different channels around open and CSP is where you're going to have that. So right now at the end of the day, you have to really look at those other managed services of where you're going to drive your revenue. And this is where I recommend, because I get it, I understand, I've been here long enough and I've been in the industry long enough to know what the margins used to look like. Really want to take a look at how consumption, you want to really look at that book consumption economics. It's not about the software licensing revenue anymore. It's about the managed services revenue. It's about the IP that we talk about. That's where the profitable partners are there. Example, 10 to 15 seats. I don't know if there are any more out there, just the one we happen to have for this. The name of the tool, again, I presume, was Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. And are there any annual requirements? No, 1 year subscription, kind of the same termination model. That's all dependent. I know Tech Data will help you if you need to terminate the subscription, what those costs will be that's there. It is a one seat per year commitment. But what's funny, that's the same that was for 365 as well. But a lot of the disties, and Tech Data being one of them, will work with you on all those things as you need to move in and out of those subscription models. So definitely something you want to evaluate and look at and how it's going to be a response for your business. That looks like it's all the questions. So I'll hang out if there's any other questions that are there. I think $7 is the retail published price that we have. So I'm looking at a question regarding the incentive versus disincentive. I'm referring to the customer's perspective, not the resellers. We, the reseller, need to present this to the customer and be able to clearly define what the incentives are for the customer to move to the subscription model. I think from our standpoint, the subscription model falls under the same areas of selling them that software license. Instead of buying that all of that up front, I mean, the big thing is going to be cost up front, right? If you buy an on-prem solution versus a cloud solution, the costs are going to be dramatically higher for the on-prem solution. So I think less expensive cost is a huge seller there. I think letting them have that subscription model allows them to grow and shrink their business as they need. Once again, this comes right back into cloud economics and cloud consumption 101 of how do we position these cloud technologies for our customers that were always traditional on-prem types of customers. I think that's the big incentive. I think CSP, giving them one bill so your customer's not paying one check to us, one check to you, one check to somebody else or a third-party provider, CSP really lets you wrap that one bill up to your customer. So we found not only do partners like it because it gives them one bill, we found that customers really like that model as well. Then the rest is there for us to see what's inside of it. Now, Ken, we can a really good question is cost is much more subscription. This is like leasing a car in some standpoint. It may or may not be for everybody, but something you can evaluate what's there. I will tell you that it's not, you're going to eat up your cost in 1 year or 2 year. With most of the cloud solutions, you're talking about multiple years before that cost comes anywhere near what the remote is, to the point that if you refresh hardware for that customer, it's still going to be cheaper than be for cloud. Now, with that said, Tech Data has several calculators on their solutions to help you evaluate what's there. So at the end of the day, it's really, once again, looking at that solution, what's right for that customer long term, and we're finding that customers that are moving to the cloud are finding that it's a lot cheaper than any on-prem solution over any period of time. My favorite example when it looks at cloud solutions was customer had SharePoint on-prem. They bought a SAN every year to store it. They were a construction company. And they moved their construction database basically up into Azure for storage. Their costs for their SAN every year would take, I think they said, 5 to 6 years of Azure storage costs to cover the cost of a 1 year SAN. And oh, by the way, they had to buy a new SAN almost every year. So you really have to look at those solutions. I think at the end of the day, cloud may not be for everybody, may not be for all of your customers from a cost perspective, but it's proven out over time that cloud technologies can be less expensive and generally are less expensive than running on-prem solutions. Even if you take all of that out, if you look at it from a CapEx versus OpEx perspective, there are tax savings to be had as well. So lots of reasons to look at that. What does this mean from MS on-prem solutions? Oh, I get asked this question. We're still going to sell them. Are we going to get rid of our on-prem solutions? The answer is absolutely not. But what you've seen with all of our technologies, really since Windows Server 2012 came out, you saw what I would call cloud-friendly technologies. And what do I mean by that? I simply mean that you have a server by itself running on-prem happily. It's going to do great work. And I get it. There's going to be a lot of customers that just don't want to go to the cloud. They don't want to move to the cloud. They don't want to have the cloud. They don't like the cloud. They don't trust the cloud, whatever. They don't want to go to the cloud technology. The great thing about that is all of our technologies, and we're the only vendor, Microsoft being the only vendor, by the way, that sells all solutions for cloud technologies from on-prem to hybrid to full SaaS solutions like 365. We're the only one that does all of them. We're the only cloud provider that does all of them. More to the point, we're the only one that is in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for all of those solutions from on-prem for that. So the nice thing about that, from our perspective, you'll hear from Satya and you'll hear from our leadership, cloud first company. Cloud first, mobile first is our most, what Satya really came out when he first got hired. And what does he mean? A lot of your customers are going to look at cloud first for their technologies. And if it doesn't solve their problem, we're going to offer those on-prem. We always will be the cloud on your own terms type of company. You're going to move that. And at the end of the day, our on-prem solutions are still going to be rock solid. They're still going to move forward. And so from my standpoint, I would really look at those cloud solutions for your customers first. But if they don't fit, look at those on-prem solutions. Not saying you're going to get rid of them. I mean, we just launched, as a matter of fact, I think it was yesterday officially, we launched Windows Server 2016 yesterday at Ignite. So we're still doing on-prem solutions. We're still doing on-prem server solutions that are there. Any other questions, someone or or both? I think Michael just asked us some questions. And I'll agree to disagree with the last comment that's in there. It sounds good, but at the end of the day, I can tell you many, many customers that have saved money by using the cloud technologies versus their on-prem solutions. It's in the math. So with that, unless I see any other questions that are there, well, we got one more. That's how it always works, right? I say no more time and get ready to say goodbye, and people ask a question. With the Win 10 desktop, I'm still needing Citrix or some VDI infrastructure software for managing and accessing the images. So $7 is a little piece of the puzzle, correct? Yeah, I'd have to, Bruce, the question is really good, but my first thing is, well, what are you doing? What are you looking into doing that are there to see inside of it? So if you still need it, that $7 is going to be part of the cost, but we're doing some really neat things with Citrix as a partnership, especially from an Azure perspective. And there's another company out there called MyCloudIT that does some really good desktop as a service, so they actually use Azure to deliver desktops as well. So depending on what you're looking to do, if you're building this as how it looked on-prem, you may change how you look at it down the road. So there's lots of solutions for that particular one. I think Martha has her hand raised. I'm not sure what Martha has. Martha, if you want to put it in the chat or Skype me or figure out what's going on. I've got one of our friends raising their hand. So, and I don't see any other questions, Michael or Tobias.
Okay, well, one more. Just like you said, here they come. Another one from what was
the name of the provider? Oh, MyCloudIT. They're a ISV, but they've built basically a desktop as a service solution on top of Azure using RDS. Some really cool stuff. They're down here. I live in Dallas, and that's where they're based out of. Real neat little company. But down the road, because I don't know if you heard some announcements that we did with Azure, we're deprecating Remote App, which is one of the Azure offerings, but there was a huge partnership with Citrix. So we expect some kind of flavor of Citrix and Azure playing along together down the road.
All right, cool. Hey, this is Michael again. So, Matt, it's like Fast and Furious. Yeah. A lot of great stuff we covered today. And so my question, I was kind of inserted my own questionnaire to you. If there's any follow-up specific questions, what do you recommend for our attendees today? Because once you hang up the phone, they're not going to be able to catch you at the water cooler. So for more sort of detailed questions like this.
The biggest one is reach out to their tech data reps. Will be the first, kind of the first line, especially if they're looking at solving these solutions for their customers. We also have a blog, and I'll throw it into the chat window so everybody can see it. We have a blog that me and my team, we blog together on. Would probably be another way, probably the fastest way if you need to get a hold of us in any way. But we also put a lot of these solutions. We talk a lot about the costs that are there and the different things that are available for partners to help improve their profitability. Because at the end of the day, from a standpoint, I'm a technologist that wants to help our partners grow their technical side of the business, but also improve it. But we all as a team blog. I'm just one person in a big team that allows us to do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that broadcast all. Hang on, let me put it in there. Broadcast all. But if you go to ts2blogs.com, it's a great way they can always get a hold of us. But really, as they start moving forward and they have questions about licensing and they're starting to do their first transaction with Windows Enterprise, contact their tech data folks. They're going to be more than willing to help them move forward. And they got some great solutions up on the marketplace to really help partners be successful, and not only successful from a standpoint of selling software, but any managed services, and they've done a great job of packaging a lot of solutions together.
All right, excellent. And that's it. I think we've exhausted everybody with their questions. So, Matt, I just want to thank you and the folks at Tech Data for putting this together for us today. We had great interaction. Everybody really stuck out to the end there. So thank you very, very much, sir. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. And did you have any parting words, Matt, or are you just ragged right now?
No. I simply want to say just thank you for everybody taking time out of your business day. Thank you for Tech Data bringing us on to this webcast. And if you guys have any questions, just contact Tech Data or visit us on our blog. With that, and have a great day.
All right. Hey, this is Michael Siggins from Channel Pro. I want to thank you all. We are going to just wrap things up right here today, but we wish you the best of luck with your businesses. And thanks very much for joining us. Take care, and goodbye now.